Welcome to our podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today we're looking at Hurricane Camille, a name that, well, it really resonates through history, doesn't it? Meteorological history, disaster history.
It absolutely does.
And we're not just going to recount the storm's path. Our focus today is really exploring how Camille fundamentally reshaped how the United States gets ready for and responds to natural disasters.
Yeah.
Its impact is still felt. We want to understand its power, sure, but also its consequences and, crucially, its lasting legacy in, modern preparedness.
And it's such a critical story. Camille wasn't just like another big hurricane. It was genuinely a pivotal moment.
Right.
It exposed some really serious vulnerabilities in how the country was set up to handle these things. It was an undeniable catalyst for change, really forced a rethink.
So let's start at the beginning then. To really get the impact, we need to grasp the sheer power. This thing was a monster, meteorologically speaking. Where did it even come from?
Well, it's funny, considering what it became, Camille started pretty quietly. Just an easterly tropical wave off the coast of Africa.
Okay.
That was August 5th, 1969. For a few days, it just drifted west across the Atlantic. Not very organized at all. Bit of a slow start, you could say.
It's always amazing how these huge storms
Yeah.
start as almost nothing, just a disturbance.
Mm-hmm.
So, wave off Africa. What happened next? How did it ramp up?
So by about August 9th, satellite images, and remember, satellite tech was pretty basic back then compared to now.
Sure.
They started showing more convection, signs it was getting its act together slowly. But it wasn't until August 14th that it became a proper tropical depression that was down in the Caribbean, south of Cuba. And that's when things really accelerated. I mean, really picked up speed.
Okay.
On that same day, August 14th, within just hours, it jumped to a tropical storm west of Grand Cayman, and then, boom, a hurricane moving northwest past Jamaica. Its first real hit was the western tip of Cuba. It hit there as a strong Category 2 on August 15th, did quite a bit of damage even before it got into the Gulf.
Wow. Okay. So wave to Cat 2 hitting Cuba in, 10 days? That's already pretty quick.
It is.
But the part that everyone talks about, the really frightening part, that happened in the Gulf of Mexico, right?
Yeah.
That's where it just exploded.
Exactly. That's where Camille's story becomes almost unbelievable. It underwent what meteorologists call rapid deepening, but on a scale that was just staggering.
Right.
It entered those really warm, deep waters of the Gulf after crossing Cuba, and between the evening of August 15th and the afternoon of the 16th, it went from a Category 2 to a Category...
Just like that, in about a day.
Roughly, yeah. An incredible transformation, just raw atmospheric power unleashed.
That's the bit that always gets me. How does that happen so fast? What were the ingredients in the atmosphere? It sounds like this perfect, terrifying storm recipe.
Yeah, it really was a perfect alignment of factors. First, you had these exceptionally warm sea surface temperatures, the SSTs in the Gulf. Just tons of heat energy and moisture. Think of it like a high-octane fuel just sitting there waiting. The Gulf was basically a giant fuel tank for Camille.
Right, feeding the engine.
Exactly. Second, there was very low vertical wind shear.
What does that mean exactly? Low shear.
Okay, so imagine a spinning top. If you blow on it unevenly from the side while it's spinning, it wobbles, right? It might even fall over.
Yeah.
High wind shear does that to a hurricane. It tears apart its vertical structure, but with Camille, the shear was minimal. So its structure stayed perfectly aligned, like a chimney, drawing up energy really efficiently, no disruption.
So perfect fuel, stable environment. Makes sense.
Then there's the size. Camille was actually a relatively small hurricane, physically, and it had a very compact eye, less than 8 miles across.
Oh, interesting. Small is stronger.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
That compact size often means more efficient dynamics right in the eye wall, the most intense part. It can lead to that rapid strengthening, like winding a spring really tight. Fourth, it was constantly pulling in this strong flow of moist air from way down in the southern Caribbean. Just a continuous feed of fuel, basically. It never ran out of gas, so to speak.
Oh.
And finally, just the overall conditions. The atmosphere around it was warm, moist, very little dry air to interfere, no land interaction at that critical stage. It was just the perfect setup.
So fuel, stability, compact size,
Yeah.
constant moisture feed.
Yeah.
It had everything going for it.
Yeah.
The power at its peak must have been just off the charts. What were the numbers? Wind speed, pressure?
Chilling numbers, really. The central pressure dropped to about 900 millibars.
Which is incredibly low, right?
Exceptionally low. Lower pressure means a stronger storm, basically a more intense vacuum at the center. 900 millibars made it the second most intense hurricane to hit the mainland U.S. at the time, after the 1935 Labor Day storm.
And the winds?
Sustained winds were estimated around 175 miles per hour. Some estimates go higher, maybe up to 190.
Estimated. Why estimated?
Because the instruments broke. That's the thing. The meteorological equipment designed to measure these things was actually destroyed by the storm itself.
Wow, so we don't even know the absolute peak gust for sure.
Exactly. It adds to the legend of Camille. And it did weaken slightly, briefly, because of something called an eye wall replacement cycle.
Okay.
It's like the storm's inner core falters a bit as a new, bigger outer eye wall tries to form. But Camille just snapped right back, re-intensified quickly, and held that Category 5 strength right up until it hit land. Just relentless.
Which brings us to landfall, near Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. Late night, August 17th, 1969. This wasn't just another landfall, this was historic.
Absolutely historic. It's one of only 4 Atlantic hurricanes known to have made landfall in the continental U.S. as a Category 5. A true titan hitting the coast.
And the devastation. Describe what that was like for the communities there. Pass Christian, Biloxi.
The winds, first off, were just shredding everything. 175 mile per hour sustained, gusts probably over 200. As we said, instruments destroyed, so the true peak, who knows?
Unbelievable.
But maybe even visually more shocking was the storm surge.
The water.
Yeah, an unprecedented surge. It reached about 24 to 25 feet.
25 feet. That's like a 3-story building made of water crashing inland.
Exactly. It wasn't just waves. It was the entire Gulf pushed inland to that depth. It just inundated huge areas of coastal Mississippi, past Christian, Long Beach, Biloxi, Waveland. They got hammered by this wall of water. It just erased things.
Erased is the right word. That much water moving that fast. It's hard to even imagine the force.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the immediate coast, was it? There was flooding further inland, too.
Yes, absolutely. The surge itself pushed miles inland, but then you also had the rain. Camille dumped enormous amounts of rain, so waters from the Gulf pushing inland combined with torrential rain. It led to just widespread, deep flooding.
How deep?
Over 22 feet in some areas, well away from the immediate beach. So you had the wind, the surge, the inland flooding. It was near total devastation, especially right along the coast.
Total devastation.
Buildings weren't just damaged, they were gone, leveled, foundations scoured clean. Houses, businesses, roads, piers, flattened. It looked like a bomb had gone off.
And the human cost.
Immediate and heartbreaking. The official death toll is around 259 people across its entire path. But just imagine, tens of thousands suddenly homeless, everything gone.
Yeah. Communities
Just shattered. And the economic cost, over $1.4 billion just in Mississippi and Alabama back in 1969 dollars.
Which would be?
Well over $10 billion today. A staggering economic catastrophe for the region.
Just an absolute nightmare scenario. But Camille's story, the destruction, it didn't actually stop at the coast, did it? That's something we often forget.
You're absolutely right. That's a really crucial part of Camille's legacy. It's often overlooked.
Right.
After hitting Mississippi, it did weaken as it moved north, still caused a lot of wind damage, power outages across Mississippi, but it wasn't done. As it kept moving, it became a tropical depression, but it still carried this enormous amount of moisture, and its path took it over Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and crucially, Virginia.
Far from the ocean.
Very far. And the problem there wasn't wind anymore, it was the rain. Unbelievable torrential rain, especially when it hit the Appalachian Mountains. The terrain basically squeezed the moisture out.
So the mountains made it worse.
In terms of rainfall, yes. It led to catastrophic flash flooding and landslides, especially in Virginia. Some places got over 27 inches of rain in just a few hours.
27 inches.
Yeah, it caused dozens more deaths, pushing the total toll up, and just massive destruction hundreds of miles from where it made landfall. Roads vanished, bridges washed away, whole communities and valleys were flooded or hit by mudslides.
So it became this major inland flooding disaster, too. That really changes how you have to think about hurricane threats, doesn't it? It's not just a coastal thing.
Exactly. It proved a hurricane's impact zone is much, much bigger than just the coastline. It's a hydrological threat far inland, too. That was a huge lesson.
And the aftermath on the Gulf Coast must have been pure chaos. How did they even start to respond?
It was chaos. Infrastructure was destroyed. Roads, bridges, power, communications. Communities were completely isolated by the water. It made immediate rescue and recovery incredibly difficult. A logistical nightmare.
So who stepped in? Local authorities must have been overwhelmed.
Totally overwhelmed. The federal government had to get involved in a massive way. The military was mobilized quickly.
The military.
Yes. Troops, engineers, aircraft, they were vital for rescues, for getting basic supplies, water, food, medicine to people, and also just for maintaining order in some places where local structures had collapsed. It really set a precedent for federal military involvement in domestic disasters.
And the people.
Mm.
Tens of thousands homeless. Where do they go?
It was a long-term crisis. Many lived in temporary shelters, trailers, with family for months, even years. The rebuilding process was immense, took years and huge amounts of federal funding.
A long, slow recovery.
Very long. And even in that immediate aftermath, you could see the lessons starting to sink in. A new awareness of just how dangerous storm surge could be, how vulnerable the coast was. It immediately spurred talks about better forecasting, better evacuation plans, stronger building codes. It was a brutal learning experience happening in real time.
Which brings us to that lasting transformation.
Yeah.
Camille really did force a change in how things were done. You mentioned communication earlier. That was a key failure, right? The warnings weren't clear enough.
Absolutely. That was a critical flaw Camille exposed.
Yeah.
The old way of issuing warnings using technical data like barometric pressure or wind speed and knots,
Right.
it just didn't connect with the average person. People heard the numbers maybe, but didn't truly grasp the life-threatening danger those numbers represented.
So 900 millibars didn't scream, "Get out now," to everyone.
Exactly. There was a disconnect. It highlighted this urgent need for a warning system that was intuitive, that immediately conveyed the severity of the threat in human terms. That was a big aha moment. Warnings needed to be understood viscerally.
And that led directly to something we all recognize now.
It did. The Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale.
Right. Categories 1 through 5.
Precisely. Developed shortly after Camille by Robert Simpson, the head of the National Hurricane Center then, and Herbert Saffir, an engineer. They saw the need for a simple, standardized way to communicate the danger.
So that scale is a direct legacy of Camille. How did it change things?
It was revolutionary, really. It translates the wind speed into potential damage in a clear 1 to 5 rating. Suddenly, everyone had a common language. Category 5 instantly means extreme danger, catastrophic damage. In a way, 175-mile-per-hour winds or 900 millibars didn't for everyone. It improved clarity, drove action, saved lives.
A huge leap forward. What about getting those warnings out, technology-wise?
Yeah, Camille showed how easily communication could fail. Power outages, destroyed lines. So NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, really expanded its weather radio network along the coast after Camille.
NOAA weather radio, okay.
Yeah, those VHF broadcasts became a lifeline. Continuous direct warnings, even if other comms were down. And they also prioritized getting emergency power generators to those radio stations.
Smart. So the warnings could keep going even if the grid failed.
Exactly. Keep the warnings flowing. And beyond just getting the word out, there's a big push for better seeing the storm, too.
Better forecasting tools.
Right. More investment in satellites, ocean buoys, those hurricane hunter aircraft, all aimed at getting more accurate forecasts with longer lead times. Camille showed you need time to prepare, to evacuate. You can't prepare for what you can't predict well enough in advance.
Makes sense. Better eyes, clearer voice, more time. What about the lead time itself? You said 15 hours for Camille was good for the time.
It was considered a success then, yes. It allowed for significant evacuation. But Camille also taught that even more time is better. And importantly, it showed the need to warn larger areas of coastline, not just the exact predicted landfall spot.
Widen the warning zone.
Yeah. It's a balance, avoiding warning fatigue where people ignore warnings if they happen too often for their specific spot. But you need to ensure areas near the direct path are also ready. That evolved into the watches and warnings we see issued much further out now.
It really is incredible how one storm forced so many changes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just warnings in tech, right? It changed disaster management itself, policy, coordination.
Oh, fundamentally. Before Camille, disaster management was much more fragmented.
Yeah.
Different agencies, state, local, not always working together smoothly. It was more reactive.
And Camille showed the flaws in that.
Big time. The scale of destruction just overwhelmed that fragmented system, so it spurred major legislative action.
Like what?
Well, the Coastal Zone Management Act in '72. That aimed to control development in risky coastal areas, make things more resilient. A direct response to seeing beachfront development just wiped away.
Okay.
Then the Disaster Relief Act of '74. That streamlined how federal aid was distributed, made it faster, more efficient than the bureaucratic process before.
Getting help where it was needed, faster.
Exactly, but the biggest piece, the real game changer, was creating FEMA in 1979.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Right. It's centralized federal disaster response. Mitigation, preparedness, response, all under one roof. A totally new, unified approach for the nation.
So the federal government really stepped up its role after Camille. More coordination, more resources.
Dramatically. The military mobilization during Camille set a precedent. After that, there was a much stronger focus on coordination, federal, state, local agencies, plus volunteer groups like the Red Cross, all working together, trying to create a seamless response effort.
And you mentioned the inland flooding. Did that change preparedness thinking too?
Absolutely. That was another huge lesson. Before Camille, it was almost all about coastal wind and surge. But the devastation in Virginia, that forced everyone to think about the full impact of a hurricane, including the massive rainfall and flooding potential far inland. Preparedness plans had to start considering those hydrological impacts well away from the beach.
It widened the whole definition of hurricane risk.
It really did.
Yeah.
And there was another perhaps more uncomfortable lesson, too.
Which was?
The socioeconomic disparities. Camille hit everyone, but it didn't hit everyone equally. Lower-income communities, people with less sturdy housing, fewer resources to evacuate, they often suffered worse and had a harder time recovering.
Right. That makes sense.
It was a stark reminder that disaster preparedness isn't just about forecasts and building codes, it's also about equity, about social justice. It pushed for more inclusive planning, making sure aid and resources reach everyone, especially the most vulnerable. A tough lesson, but a necessary one.
So it seems absolutely clear. Camille became this benchmark, this defining event. It really did shape decades of hurricane policy and built the foundations for how we handle these storms today.
Without a doubt, it was the crucible. Every major storm since has, in some way, been measured against Camille, and the systems in place today are a direct result of the hard lessons learned back in 1969. Reducing deaths, reducing damage that became the driving force, pushing innovation and coordination.
So understanding Camille isn't just looking back at history. It's really about understanding how our safety systems evolve, the challenges we still face, especially with, a changing climate. It shows how one event can force massive change.
Exactly. It's that iterative process. We learn, we adapt, we improve. Hopefully we get better prepared for the next one, whatever it might be.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've really seen Camille's dual nature, the sheer, terrifying, destructive power, that unbelievable surge, the inland flooding, but also its incredible legacy as a catalyst for change. Better warnings, FEMA, coordinated response, broader awareness. It makes you think, though, as we look back at how Camille revealed unexpected weaknesses. What current gaps or unforeseen impacts might today's disasters be showing us? What lessons are we learning right now that will shape preparedness for the next 50 years? Something to consider. Thanks again for joining us, and check back for other podcasts.